Welcome back, brothers, to the shop. Are you guys ready to burn some gas? Yesterday, we did the milling of the big old growth Doug fir log with the traditional Alaskan chainsaw mill, and today we're going to be using the Alaskan Mini mill. Now, these are a match made in heaven, really. If you have both, you can be pretty efficient, or as efficient as you can be with a chainsaw mill. But both can be used as a standalone. This is an edging tool that we're going to be using today to knock the two edges off this big log. The Alaskan Mini is a great little chainsaw attachment if you were going to pack in light. You could pack this into a remote location and you could mill beams of timber. You just need your chainsaw. Now, it runs on a track system, and the track comes in these individual pieces, and you can purchase them for as long as you want. Usually, you figure how long your longest board's going to be, and just figure a couple feet over that and you'll be in good shape. This track system mounts down, and if you look on the bottom of the mini mill, you can see that V groove that runs and follows that track. So your cut, obviously, is only going to be as good as or as straight as your track is. Now, you could fasten this directly down to the tree. That would work, but each time you would have to reline it and re-snap lines. The better way to do it is to mount it to a 2x6 that you know is straight and true, like this one right here. Then we can simply use this as a guide for our edging. I'd start with a 2x6. 2x6 are bigger, whatever you have. And it's really critical to get this straight. This needs to be straight. Rip it on a table saw if you don't. And even if you don't put your screws in straight, if you put them in kind of cattywampus, they'll pull this over. And your boards are only going to be as good as this. So do it right. Take an awl and find your center. And just take a moment. You're just doing it once. Do it right the first time. And then you'll have a nice straight guide for your timbers and your boards. Some of you guys were getting after me yesterday about my flex with two impact drivers. The reason why I did that is I had two different size screw Torx heads because I needed a longer screw for the taper of the log. There you have it, brothers. When you get fed up with Clown World and you want to go Dick Pernecki in the wilderness, you can take your mini mill and your chainsaw and build yourself a palace in the woods. Let us proceed. Attaching the mill to the saw is quite simple. I place it on the tracks. I run my board about a foot over. It gives you a little bit of space to work with, and it helps you get a good start because you're going to need all the help you can get when it comes to chainsaw milling. You spend a day doing this, and you'll understand the 12 trials of Hercules. These 2 1/2-inch bolts are going to lock onto your bar. Now, Gramberg, the manufacturer, warns us never to use composite bars on the chainsaw mill. But what they don't understand is the professional homeowner like myself has a cat-like reflex that warns me of any impending danger or mechanical failure so that I can intervene. Plus, it's the only bar I have that's long enough that's composite. Here you can see the power head slide smoothly on the track, and you simply need to adjust to the left to the right to come in contact with your line. Now remember, your chainsaw is going to take about 5/16 to 3/8 of wood. They take a lot of wood in the kerf. So cut to the outside of your line. We can finish that later. Just better to have a little bit more wood than not enough on these rough cuts. Pro tip, secure your 2x with 2 screws side by side all the way down at about every 3 or 4 feet. You don't want any twist in this. We are just about ready to start slabbing, gentlemen. We're going to have to sharpen the saw. Now, a lot of commenters thought that I was cutting with a dull saw yesterday because of the fine sawdust coming off of it. That's what happens when you cut something that's relatively dry in a rip, meaning you're ripping with the grain. There's 2 types of cuts. There's a cross cut against the grain, like you normally do when you're firewood cutting. You should be having big, fat, thick chunks that be tearing out of a sharp saw. But when you're ripping, you're going to get a fine dust. My favorite way to sharpen a saw is in a vise. This right here is why you put your vise on the corner, because you can get to both sides of it. Now, if your vise is not in the corner, in the middle, you can rotate it at the base. Rotate it so your bar sticks out. That way you can come get on the left side and the right side for your filing. There's no mystery to filing, brothers. There's a million devices out there, but a round file and a little bit of expertise goes a long ways. The new chains have hash marks right on them. You can see what angle. If you look on the back of your tooth there, you'll have the angle. Just remember, line up that angle like this till it looks right, and a nice push. Rotate your file so you're getting a fresh, clean piece of file each time. And if you do 3 on the next one. If you do 4, do 4. Just keep them consistent. As a rule of thumb, file your chain half a dozen times or so, and when it starts to wander, then take it in and have it reground, and that will bring it back to true again. That's just the best way to do it. Even the best filers, by the time you get down to the end of a chain, are going to have some wandering issues because they just get filed different. And you know, one thing for me is I can file real strong on this side, and you'll notice I'm skipping a tooth every other one because they alternate. Once we get all the way through here, then we'll flip to the other side, but it's my weaker side, and I just don't file as consistent. Same thing on this side. Just get comfortable. Get a chair or whatever you need to do to feel comfortable where you can be consistent. And we did 3 on the other side. We're going to do 3 here. You probably hear Miss Pants in the background howling. I think the baby is practicing her harmonica again. They perform a duet. This is the Soder fuel system it might be in production now. It's currently being field tested with the United States Forest Service as a system that prevents fuel vapor spray. Stills had some problems with that, and that's been a real big issue on the fire ground because sawyers are getting burnt as the fuel atomizes and sprays out because of, no one really knows, some sort of lack of venting. So this was developed to work with standard MSR bottles, or SIGs as we call them, which are commonly used for hot shots and smoke jumpers and such, right? So it's just a replacement system here made by ProMotion. You can look that up. Soder, S-O-T-E-R fuel system, Motion Pro, they have that. The oil, unfortunately, is just old school here.